Welcome to Help Me Rhonda on WCAT Radio, where author and philosopher Ronda Chervin draws from a lifetime of writing, reflection, and faith-filled inquiry. Each episode offers thoughtful guidance, practical wisdom, and literary insight to help you navigate life's questions with clarity, compassion, and hope.
Welcome to Help Me Rhonda, Episode 7. This is Rhonda, and I just want to say, you're not seeing my live TV show, you're hearing the radio, because we have this terrible Santa Ana winds that have gotten rid of Wi-Fi, so I can't get on the usual Zoom. But I will be back. I assume that that's going to end, and I'll be back next week with the regular Zoom. So this book of mine is called Taming the Lion Within, 5 Steps from Anger to Peace. And it has a very interesting, it's an interactive book, by the way. So when I talk about this, if you get the book, you'll have all these questions for you at the end of each chapter so that it's interactive. Okay, now the story of this book is very interesting. Namely, I was a very angry person from the time I was 2 years old. Everybody in the family remembers me as always angry. And even as a little kid, I was always angry simply if things didn't go my way. And I would be, then later when I became a mother myself, I'd be screaming at my children. And I was always confessing anger when I went to monthly confession with my spiritual director. And after a few years of this, my spiritual director, Father Leo Celano, a Norbertine father, he said, Rhonda, I can keep absolving you, but why don't you look into what causes this anger? So I thought about that. He seemed to mean I should see what a psychologist would say. And what happened was, right after that, someone in my class, I was teaching at Loyola Marymount University, someone in the class came along and said, can I give a little talk to the class about this wonderful group for anger, fear, and depression, Recovery International? And so that was 30 years ago. And as soon as I heard about this group, the description, I decided, well, this is what would satisfy Father Leo if I go to this group that's devoted to problems of anger, fear, and depression. Okay, so now I went to the group, and it takes a long time to get over these traits if you've had them for, 50 years or something, or at that point 40 years of yelling at people. So it's very hard to change, but eventually I actually did get better. And when I got much better, I decided what I wanted to do was to write a book about this, relating the techniques of Recovery International, which isn't 12-step, it's something different. You could look it up, Recovery International, and find out all about it. And it's a free group, and it's also on the phone or on Zoom. There are all sorts of ways, and it's just by donation. Anyway, so I thought, there's all these Catholics I know who are sort of allergic to psychology, but they have anger problems. And how could they won't go to a group like this, but if I write a book combining Catholic spirituality with these anger management tools and put them together, they could benefit by them. And in fact, people who told me they benefited greatly. So let me read to you It's called Taming the Lion Within, 5 Steps from Anger to Peace. And let me read you the steps. First is admitting I'm an angry person, then identifying my type of anger, understanding my anger, taming the lion day by day, and the last one is the lion lies down with the lamb. So I'm just going to give you a few highlights of this. And so the first one, admitting I'm an angry person, you would be surprised that the people who are angry very often think this way, is the way I put it. Instead of thinking, I'm angry because I'm a furious person who can't accept realities, we think, I'm only angry because everyone else is obnoxious. See? If you had to deal with the people I have to deal with, including my family, you would be yelling all the time too. So it takes a little humility to really admit that you're an angry person. So that's the first chapter is about that. And then the second one is identifying my type of anger. So I have a little quiz that I'm going to give you on this Help Me Rhonda program. Are you angry mostly? I get angriest when someone confronting me is wrong or right. You get angry when they're wrong or when they're right. Do you think, well, of course, you get angry because the other person is wrong, but that's not true. You could also be angry because people are right, and you don't want to admit it. 2, my anger is usually expressed by raising my voice or screaming, or B, I usually hide my anger. So some of the most angry people are people who don't yell and scream, but just, relate to people with coldness and disdain, but they don't yell and scream. Okay. My anger is more hot and fiery or cold and distancing. 4, I usually remain angry for a short time or for a long time. My anger or irritability comes up many times a day, or mostly about big grievances. My anger is mostly intense compared to that of most others I know, or mild compared to that of most others I know. The anger I feel is A, sometimes expressed in uncontrolled physical violence, banging something, hitting, harming. Mild spanking or self-defense is a different issue. Even when strong, it is almost never expressed violently. Happily, I've done that only violently, I think maybe once or twice in my entire life. But then I'm a woman, so. In humor, another question, in humor, I tend toward harsh sarcasm or teasing with an edge. Then, people count how many A or B they did. Okay. And also list the people you're often angry about and checking out a whole week and seeing what makes you angry and things like that. Okay. This is just highlights, but if you already see that you fit, you might think it worthwhile to get the book. Okay. Now, trying to understand anger, what I came up with was that the most usual type of anger comes about this way. You have a frustration, and then expressing it in angry rage gives you a false sense of control. So here's the example that I love to give, which everybody gets right away. If you're driving on the freeway, it's a 65-mile-an-hour freeway, okay? Now, you see this car racing 90 miles an hour in and out of the cars, and you're furious, but you're also afraid he could kill someone. His car could kill someone. Okay, but you can't do anything. You can't control this wild driver. However, if you finally reach where he is and you give him the finger or you yell some curse word at him, I'm using him because usually speeders are usually men. Anyway, so if you curse the person, you have this false sense of being in control, because instead of you being under the thumb of his vices, you're on top of him, cursing him to hell, symbolically, see? So you can watch out for that. A very subtle form of anger is what my philosophy teacher, Dietrich von Hildebrand, said, was that self-righteous people like to hurl denunciations from the throne of truth. Okay, this is what that means. Okay. You have people that you think are in error, and you think their errors are very bad and even can hurt many people. Okay, so say you're looking at Hitler. So you can't do anything to stop Hitler. However, you can hurl denunciations at him from the throne of truth in this way. You could every day be saying, at the time when Hitler was still alive, damn Hitler, God damn it, Hitler. Go to hell, Hitler, see? That's a hurling a denunciation from the throne of truth. So again, it doesn't do anything positive. Okay. So then we have a whole thing of taming the lion within day by day. And these are these wonderful ways that Abraham Lowell, the founder of Recovery International, that he devised these ways. Abraham Lowell was a psychiatrist who fled from Hitler's Germany and came to the United States. And he was a doctor, medical doctor. He was working in a big hospital, and he was the psychiatrist in the hospital. And he found that when he was working with his patients one-on-one, and he could help them very much, but when they got better and they went home, they immediately started to get much worse again when they were at home. So he started having them come once a week to a room or sit around a table, and he gradually devised this system, which has been all over the world, because anger, fear, and depression is all over the world. Okay, and what he did is he has tools like the 12-step tools. In 12-step, you say, let go, let God. That's called a tool. You say that whenever you're clinging to something that you can't keep clinging to. Let go, let God. Well, these are some of his for anger. He says, take a secure thought. Taking a secure thought means instead of yelling, hurling a denunciation, or cursing this driver going 80, you call the police on your phone, and you hope that they'll come before he actually hits someone. So you take the secure thought, maybe the police can get here quick, or eventually. Then you have things like accept the average. Accept the average means we can think of ourselves as exceptional. So you can think of yourself as not average, but exceptional. And then you could think, since I'm an exceptional person, my marriage won't have any problems because I'm so wonderful. So my wife or husband is very lucky to have me as a spouse because I'm wonderful. And then you expect that your spouse or your children or your students or your co-workers or your bosses, that they should be not average but exceptionally wonderful. Whereas the average is that most people have some good points and some faults, and the faults aren't easy to change, and the faults are going to be annoying, see? So if you accept the average, it doesn't mean you don't wish for something better and hope that someone will change for the best, but you accept that person's average. Another one is move your muscles, and that means when you sit brooding about things, you can much more easily feel angry, depressed, and anxious when you're just sitting around alone. But when you're doing some exercise like running or doing regular exercises in a group or something like that, you actually it changes your feelings from extreme feelings of anger or anxiety or depression to just normal. Another one is humor is your best friend. So whenever you can laugh at something that somebody says instead of yelling at them, it's very good. It takes away the anger. Another one is to keep saying to yourself, it's not a 911. And this is one of the favorites of all the members of these groups, is it's not a 911 means you shouldn't take some little thing like you spilled some soup on the tablecloth. That's obviously not a 911. You may have to apologize. Someone might make you, quotes, make you put it in the washer, the tablecloth, but it's obviously not a 911. So we tend to, people who are very excitable and angry tend to see everything as like a 911. It's an emergency. Everything seems like an emergency. Like, he didn't answer my phone call. That must be because he's going to reject me. That means I'm never going to be happy the whole rest of my life, versus he didn't answer the phone because he was busy with someone else. Obviously not a 911. Okay, so that's a sort of outline of some of the chapters in the book, and it ends with The Lion Lies Down with the Lamb, which is all about Christian attitudes, Christian ways of dealing with anger, fear, and depression. And one of the biggest ones is forgiveness. A man I knew who was a counselor to many, many people, he said that in the middle of his life, he used to think that forgiveness was important. But by the end of his life, he thought that 90% of unpleasant, bad things that people experience need forgiveness to deal with them. And that's a great, wonderful thing. So that talks about ways to forgive. So that's what I plan to tell you about this book. Now, suppose you want this book. So what you should do is go to write down Ronda Chervin, Taming the Lion Within, and then go to En Route Books. That's capital E-N, capital R-O-U-T-E, Books, and Amazon, and you'll find it. So I don't know a single person that I gave this to or that bought this book that didn't tell me that it made a big difference in their lives. So, as a matter of fact, the co-founder of this publishing house with me, En Route Books and Media, he happened to have been given this book to read, and he said he was never angry again after reading this book of mine. And he was never angry at me as a result, so I benefited greatly by writing this book. Okay, So now we have questions. I haven't been getting many questions, but one that I got was this. How come we say St. Michael the Archangel? We call Michael the Archangel a saint, but the other angels we don't call saints. So why is he a saint? Doesn't a saint have to be a human person? And I did some research on this, and all the things I read say the same thing. That all the angels, all the good angels are saints in the sense that a saint is someone who is heroically virtuous. But we don't call them Saint so-and-so because the only ones we have names for are the ones in the Bible. So we do say St. Michael, the Archangel, St. Gabriel, St. Raphael. And that's because we have a name for those. Now, you might be interested in knowing that there was a period in the 70s, I think, 1970s, where some priests started recommending that people give a name to their guardian angel. Instead of just praying, guardian angel, help me with this, help me with that, they thought of a name for that person that they liked, that angel that they liked. And they did call them by the angel, they called them by names of all kinds, like Angel Paul or Angel Susan, like that. And it was that movement took off big time, and a lot of people were naming their guardian angel, but then the Vatican came out against it. And the priest who I knew who was pushing this especially, he immediately stopped pushing it after the Vatican rebuke. And he didn't explain exactly, but I think it's because traditionally the angels are considered to be masculine, and calling them feminine names could go along with the movement in the church to call God not Father but Mother, and things like that. So whatever. So that's my answer to that question. If you do have a question, you can write to me at my email. That's Chervin Ronda, CHERVIN Ronda, RONDA, at gmail.com. And I might answer your email if I don't have too many, but probably what I'll do is just talk about it on the next show after you send it to me. So if you turn into the next show, which would be episode 7, episode 8, which you can do at any time like 10 days from now, because it takes a little while for the show to be edited and then put up. Okay, so the closing prayer, let me see what the Holy Spirit will tell me, the prayer to close this session. Dear Jesus, you said, there were so many scriptures about not being angry. Psalm 37:5, cease from anger. And you don't mean that we can avoid having feelings of anger, but we shouldn't act on these feelings with rage, denunciation, violence. Okay, so we have to take that feeling of anger and turn it into praying for the other person or trying to improve a situation in good ways, but not by just yelling at people. So, Jesus, you know that how grateful I am for that Recovery International, that I become less and less angry. I actually have confessions where I don't mention anger even. But that's 30 years of hard work. So bless anyone who's listening to this program who has cold or hot anger to turn that in a good way by forgiveness, and by realism that life can't simply be the way we want it to be. Amen.